Number 8. Gregory Logan Ramos. When her son, Gregory Logan Ramos, received a D in school, 46-year-old Gail Clevenger confronted a teen at their home in Volusia County, Florida. An argument broke out, and the high schooler ended up strangling his mother to death. It took him 30 minutes and 2 tries to kill her. Ramos buried his mom's body beneath a fire pit in the yard of a nearby church. He then called some friends who helped him make his house look like it had been burglarized. The young man made a dramatic burglary report that Volusia County Sheriff Mike Chitwood later described as a Grammy-winning phone call in a Florida Times Union interview. But when deputies questioned Ramos about his missing mother, his story didn't add up, and his friends were quick to crack under pressure. He soon followed, claiming that his mother was abusive and that he had to kill her before she killed him, something detectives found no evidence of during their investigation. Ramos pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and was sentenced to 45 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. If released, he could spend the rest of his life on parole. His lawyer told the court that Ramos is extremely remorseful for his actions, but Sheriff Chitwood had already made his opinion known in a press conference shortly after Clevenger's murder. He described the young offender as one of the top 3 sociopaths that he'd ever come across. Number 7. Joran van der Sloot. 18-year-old Natalie Holloway was last seen getting in a car with 3 men outside a bar during a senior class trip to Aruba in 2005. She was due to return to the United States just hours later, but she never returned to her hotel or made her flight. Authorities soon zeroed in on the men she was seen leaving the hotel with: Dutch national Joran van der Sloot and brothers Deepak and Satish Kalpoe. They were detained numerous times over the following years, but there was never enough evidence to formally charge them with any crimes. There was widespread speculation that van der Sloot's father, Paulus, knew more about the case than he was saying. If he did, nobody will ever know because he passed away in 2010, taking whatever secrets he held to the grave. In 2010, Joran van der Sloot offered to reveal the location of Natalie's remains to her parents in exchange for a $25,000 down payment and an additional $225,000 later on. They agreed and paid, but the suspect said he didn't know where Natalie's remains were and that he was stringing her parents along as revenge for making his life hell. That same year, van der Sloot traveled to Lima, Peru, where he killed 21-year-old Stephanie Flores Ramirez in his hotel room. He admitted to the crime, but tried to retract his confession, claiming he was intimidated and pressured by Peruvian authorities and the FBI. But the judge ruled that the confession was valid and he pleaded guilty to the murder. Van der Sloot was sentenced to 28 years in prison. He apologized in court, but many doubted his sincerity, including former FBI detective Paul Lindsay, who told CBS News that the disgraced killer displays hallmark traits of a sociopath. He remains a suspect in the disappearance of Natalie, who was officially declared dead in 2012, despite her body never being found and her case remaining unsolved. Number 6. Christina Adams. Deputies responded to a home in Marion County, Florida one morning in 2022 and found 2 injured victims. Only one of them was conscious and able to talk. He said their roommate had stabbed them and left the house. The victims were rushed to the hospital in critical condition, with one suffering from major blood loss and a puncture wound to the heart, and the other requiring emergency surgery. It didn't take long for law enforcement to catch up with the suspect, 30-year-old Christina Adams, who was found driving nearby with a female passenger. The passenger told deputies that she was unaware of the stabbing and that Adams hadn't mentioned it to her. Adams initially denied any involvement in the crime. Oddly, she never asked why she was being detained or questioned. She later admitted to shocking the victims with a taser pen and stabbing them with a 9-inch, 23-centimeter kitchen knife. She planned to kill them after they asked her to move out. On the day of the incident, the roommates told Adams that she had until the end of the day to be gone, at which point she put her sinister plan into action. Believing the victims were dead, she attempted to destroy evidence, changed her outfit, and left the scene. She was on her way back to the house from a public supermarket when deputies tracked her down. When they asked her what she planned to do when she got back, she said that she had some laundry to throw in the dryer, but was unsure of what she would do with the victims' bodies. Adams allegedly told authorities that she's a sociopath with an undiagnosed dissociative identity disorder, more commonly known as multiple personality disorder. She faces charges of attempted first-degree murder and tampering with evidence. Number 5. Christopher Duntsch. Between 2011 and 2013, former neurosurgeon Christopher Duntsch operated on around 40 patients in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. 31 of them were left with horrific lasting injuries, including paralysis, numbness, excruciating pain from damaged nerves. 2 patients died, one from blood loss and another from a stroke. At the same time, Duntsch made bold claims that he was the most qualified surgeon of his kind in the state and that others were doing it wrong. Naturally, his colleagues realized he was unqualified to practice medicine, let alone perform delicate spinal procedures. But it took a while for authorities to catch up to him as he bounced from one employer to the next without losing his actual license to practice. In a lot of cases, he was fired or resigned, but his malpractice was never reported to the state. 2 doctors who worked with Duntsch pushed the state to take action, and he finally lost his surgical privileges. When the story broke, one of Duntsch's colleagues described him as the worst surgeon I've ever seen, while another called him a sociopath. In 2017, a jury convicted him of injury to an elderly person and sentenced him to life in prison. It was revealed that Duntsch completed less than 100 surgeries during his residency, when neurosurgery residents typically participate in more than 1,000 surgeries. Throughout his career, he was accused multiple times of performing surgeries drunk or on drugs. Emails uncovered from his computer indicated that he purposely botched procedures, but those who observed his work said that he truly had no idea what he was doing. Either way, it was clear to the jury that he was aware of his wrongdoings long before he stopped committing them. Number 4. Chandler Halderson. None of 23-year-old Chandler Halderson's friends knew he was a college dropout who relied on his parents for financial support. They believed his claims of being a former police scuba diver, an insurance agent, and an aspiring engineer with plans to move from Wisconsin to Florida to live with his girlfriend. And he reportedly told his girlfriend that he had landed a job with SpaceX, although the company would later claim that nobody by his name had even applied for a job, let alone been hired. It was so important to Halderson to keep up these lies that in 2021 he allegedly fatally shot his father, Bart Halderson, who had found out that his son wasn't in college or working like he claimed. Until then, the young man had managed to get his parents off his back with elaborate excuses whenever they asked him why he didn't have any money. He even created elaborate emails with a fake human resources employee to convince them that his job was real. Halderson then killed his mother, Krista, according to prosecutors, who described the suspect in their opening statement as a compulsive liar and a sociopath who was obsessively fixated on maintaining his double life. He reported his parents missing, claiming that he last saw them leaving their house with an unknown acquaintance for their vacation cabin in White Lake, Wisconsin. To keep up the ruse, he knocked on neighbors' doors and asked if they'd seen his parents. Police found the victims' dismembered bodies in various places throughout the southern part of the state the next day, with the help of Halderson's girlfriend, who let them download data on her phone that detailed his location history. Halderson was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Number 3. Donnie Rudd. In the middle of the night on September 14, 1973, a rookie officer responded to a car crash in Barrington Hills, Illinois. He tried to revive 19-year-old newlywed Noreen Kumeta, but it was too late. The woman's husband, lawyer Donnie Rudd, claimed that a passing car ran the couple off the road. During the crash, Noreen was ejected from the vehicle and smashed her head against a rock. Life went on for Donnie, who had a successful law career, married 5 times, and was active in local politics. Things eventually began to spiral downward when he lost his law license. Then, in 1991, Rudd became the prime suspect in the murder of his client, Loretta Tabak Botke, who was killed in her Arlington Heights, Texas home. The case went cold, but police eventually reopened the case. In the process, they found evidence that Rudd had murdered Noreen Cometa and staged it to look like a car accident. He was accused of carrying out the crime for insurance money and of being with another woman the night before he married Cometa. He was convicted of murder in 2018 at 76 years old and died in prison 4 years later. Some believe that Rudd was also responsible for his father's murder, only to learn that he stood to inherit nothing and that the entire estate went to his brother. Speaking with ABC7, former Arlington Heights prosecutor Maria McCarthy described him as the most dangerous murderer she encountered in her 25-year career, describing him as a true sociopath, a narcissist who views people as objects to be used for his own benefit, and who would kill without second thought. Number 2. Nelson Chia. 73-year-old Nelson Chia and his girlfriend, 60-year-old dentist Lily Zhu, were getting out of their car in Oakland, California, when someone shot Lily dead. Chia was unharmed and initially suggested that the deadly attack was race-related. But he stood to profit handsomely from his deceased partner's multi-million-dollar estate, and investigators soon began to suspect that he had something to do with her death. They discovered correspondence and other evidence suggesting that Chia hired 33-year-old Hashim Basin to kill Lily, promising a significant amount of money in exchange. The pair planned the murder out meticulously, along with the strategies they would use to sneak out from under any suspicion by law enforcement. Authorities charged Chia and Basin with murder. Just days later, Chia took his own life inside his jail cell. In an interview with ABC7, Chia's son Byron said that he didn't buy his father's crocodile tears that he shed in front of news cameras before he became the prime suspect in the case. Byron further claimed that he had watched his father manipulate people and display theatrical behavior his entire life, and that his childhood was fraught with abuse. He said that his father liked seeing animals and humans suffer, and that he had sociopathic tendencies. While many knew Chia as a charismatic man, it's well known among experts that sociopaths are often incredibly likable on the surface, but it's usually a different story behind closed doors. Byron said he didn't have any sadness or emotions over his estranged father's passing, and even compared it to having a huge, ominous monkey off his back. Number 1. Greg Steele. Cafe owner Patrick Larkin was never seen alive again after leaving his home in Santa Fe, New Mexico to check on his goats one day in 2019. His body was found the next day with gunshot wounds to the knee and chest. Investigators learned that Larkin and his neighbor, Greg Steele, were embroiled in an ongoing dispute over Steele's dogs allegedly attacking Larkin's livestock. Steele didn't answer the door for detectives, and when they tracked him down later on, he remained reluctant to speak with them and was charged with resisting arrest. His ex-fiancée described him as a sociopath and told detectives that he had a history of violence and harassment, according to an affidavit. She also said that Steele placed little value on human life and often expressed a desire to shoot people he felt wronged by. Disturbing text messages she had received from him in the past included sordid descriptions of how he could kill a young woman and bury her in the woods without anyone knowing. Multiple other witnesses, including close friends and employees of Steele, described him in similar terms, noting that he was short-fused and seemed to enjoy discussing his fantasies about exacting physical revenge against people who displeased him. In the past, Steele was accused of falsely portraying himself as Native American and using various intimidation tactics to scare people out of the area. The affidavit noted that none of the witnesses were surprised that he was a suspect. Law enforcement found Larkin's blood on Steele's truck, and Steele confessed to the murder to his landlord after slipping up and mentioning details about it that authorities hadn't released to the public. Steele was charged with the crime, and in 2021 he was found guilty and sentenced to 21 years in prison. Thanks for watching. Would you rather find out your best friend was stalking someone and pretending they weren't, or discover your parents had relationships with multiple partners? Tell us which news would shock you and most in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.